I want to tell you a story. It's a story you may think you know, but you don't.
Welcome to my YouTube channel, World Building Fanatic. Today, in this video, we are going to discuss Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. It recently released on Netflix and I watched it and I loved it. So the objective of this video is to convince you to go watch this film. If at any point in this video you feel like you want to go watch that film, then please do stop this video and go watch it immediately. Wait a minute. If you do stop the video now, then it will hurt the algorithm and the video might not be recommended. Still, I urge you to stop the video whenever you feel like. But if you feel that you gained something valuable from this video, please consider hitting a like to it. If you are someone who looks for meaning in a story, then this movie is for you. It has entertainment, it's a musical, so people sing and dance, but it's a serious story that touch upon some serious issues that require your attention while watching it. Is that convincing enough? If not, then let me just address a few questions that might be stopping you from watching that movie. Question 1. You've already watched Pinocchio. I understand this movie is not an original story. Pinocchio originally was a book that was written by an Italian author in the late 19th century. Since then, it has been adapted into countless films and translated into multiple languages. So this is not an original concept, then why I'm suggesting it? I believe that stories like these aren't remakes of the previous one, they are iterations. These are templates, kind of like evergreen stories, upon which specific messages that are relevant to that time period and to that place are told through these stories. So the previous iterations might not be same as this one. So even if you have watched the previous iterations of Pinocchio, this one is fresh, and so you will definitely gain something new by watching this film. So what does this iteration have? That takes me to question 2. Who is this movie for? Okay, the story is of a wooden boy that comes to life. It's a musical that involves a lot of singing and dancing. Clearly it is for children, but if you have watched the trailer, you must be knowing that it's a serious movie that addresses some serious topics. So who is it for? I believe it is still for children, but this is a movie that is meant to be watched by children with their parents. Because after watching the movie, the children might have a certain questions that the parents would have to answer. Okay, so you might be wondering, if this movie is for children, then why have the dark tone? That brings me to question 3. The setting of this film. The story is set in a small town in Italy during the period of First World War, the European War. The reason the story is set in that time period is because of the topics this story touches upon. Like for example, the mortality of human being, death of a close one, how to cope with the situation, war. These are issues that might seem unnecessary to discuss with children of modern times. If we don't learn from our history, we are bound to repeat it. Hence, these topics, these issues need to be discussed even now. Question 4. Why is this movie a stop motion animation? If you want the message to reach as much as possible, it makes sense for the story to be made into a live action film. That is a normal film. Then why an animation? That too, not the traditional animation, stop motion animation, a process where we use puppets to make motions by taking individual pictures of movements. Why make such animation? I am a storyteller. I write stories that are more inclined towards science fiction fantasy, where there are a lot of fantastical things that we won't see in our day-to-day life. Now, if I am to write such stories and make justice to the stories, then I must believe in those stories. I must believe that they are possible. Similarly, Pinocchio is a story of a wooden boy who comes to life. In addition to that, there are a lot of fantastical concepts in the movie. Now, how does one make it believable? If you make it live action, there would be a real world and then there would be these fictional creatures that would feel like a mismatch from the real world. That is because if the boy is made of wood with metallic hinges, then his movement won't be as fluid as us humans. What it does is that it fails to connect with the audience. There is an easy way to bypass this, a simple principle where nothing is real, that's why everything is equally real. So what they did is, to make Pinocchio as real as rest of the characters in the story, they made everyone into puppets so that you get to connect with the protagonist. And I must say, it works. You do feel the emotional journey of Pinocchio as he goes through it. By this point, I feel I'm able to convince you to go watch this film. If you still haven't, then there is one more question that is in my mind. Question 5. If you're still not convinced, then I think that is because you don't like to watch such fake fantastical stories. In that case, let me just tell you what I think is the real story of this film. Even though the film is called Pinocchio, I believe the story is of his creator. An old man who appears to be in his 60s or 70s, who is a carpenter who lives in the outskirts of an Italian town. He lives there with his 10-year-old boy. Now this old man is aware of his mortality. He does not know how long he will live. He fears that his 10-year-old boy might be aimless and lost without him. Hence, as he does his daily work with the help of his boy, his objective is to pass on all his knowledge and wisdom to his boy, so that even if he is gone, he will be able to navigate through life. So you might say that in his last days of life, the sole purpose of him continuing to live is for this little boy, for his future. But something unfortunate happens and the boy dies. At this point, the old man is completely broken. He does not know what to do with his remaining life. He wants to end it, but he still feels that there is a lot of wisdom that he must pass on to the next generation. That is the duty of every living creature. But when this old man is robbed of his opportunity, he chooses a different path to pass on his knowledge. That is by telling stories. So what you see, all the fictional fantastical stuff of talking cricket, the living wooden boy, it's all part of his fantasy. So rest of the narration that we see or hear is this old man sharing his wisdom with the future children who might come across his stories. If you watch the film, you might disagree with me because there is no hardcore proof to show that the initial part of the story of the boy dying was real and rest of the part was the fantasy of the old man. So let me just tell you why I believe that. You see, the initial part of the story is very realistic. Everything, every character, everything that we see in here is real. Even the talking cricket voiceover that we hear in the initial part of the story, we just hear it. We don't see the cricket talk. It is only after the boy dies, the fantastical elements of the story start popping up one by one. That's why I believe that this is a story that everyone should watch and learn from it. There's a lot to talk about the story, each and every incident and the life lessons that we gain from it. Also, even though we know this as a fictional world, I believe as a storyteller, it's my responsibility to work out the logic how all these fictional elements are possible. So we will talk about that as well in future videos. Till then, thank you.
Life is such a wonderful gift.